the environment that we live in and the people we surround ourselves with, I think we also need to take that into consideration, right? Because if we are living in a place that is not conducive to us having that awareness and becoming more in tune with our thoughts, that can cause us to not really notice it or have the inner peace that we need to have that perspective. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
So we don't need and don't want to necessarily just go and run away from our family or run away from our job or run away from our
Yeah.
society so that we can find inner
Yes.
peace. The key to this is a daily retreat, which is go and sit in your car, go and find a nice chair in your bedroom or find a spot in a foyer or on a park bench. And if you've been taught how to transcend in meditation, then this is your freedom. This is your liberation. And so the first step in the process, it's two steps in the process. First step in the process is, maybe there's three steps. The first step is realize that you've been conditioned and that you're being influenced by the world around you consistently on a daily basis. So if you see McDonald's ads after McDonald's ads after McDonald's ads, you generally would think that maybe you should be eating McDonald's. And this conditioning is happening in our lives all the time. Just looking at any Netflix TV drama, and
Yeah.
you'll see
Or
this construct of the way we're
right.
living our lives.
Or in a
And we
toxic
normally,
workplace or some environment where you're
absolutely, a
just
toxic workplace. Yeah.
you're swimming in that energy.
Yeah. So we want to firstly notice that it's happening. Secondly, do something about it, which is, okay, well, at least every day, twice a day, I suggest, find some repose from that, some peace from that, and some recalibration and resetting, and claim your rightful space. And then over time, you can choose whether you want to stay in that environment or you can choose if you want to leave that environment. And everyone, predominantly most of the time, have the opportunity to make that choice. Sometimes not so. It's really difficult. Not always
Yeah.
can someone
Yeah.
just suddenly just walk out. So we have to work on that premise that, sometimes it's difficult and we have to just be in the mud sometimes and realize that this is going to be messy for a little while. But at least you've got your practice to find some solace and find some ability to find inner peace in that time. And then over time, what we start to find is really interesting. There becomes a dynamic shift where you've gone from being influenced to you actually being the influencer, but just in a different way. So even this podcast, hopefully at this point, there might be maybe 1, 2, 5, hopefully 10,000 people that are influenced by this conversation. And this is when we start going from having the world negatively affecting us to us positively affecting the world. And this is the transition that I think we're going through on the planet, where we've got that capacity to collectively have been conditioned to be stressed. And look, not all of the world is conditioning us to be stressed and in a bad way. A lot of the world is conditioning us to be actually really good, really harmonious, and really kind and really caring. So the world isn't a horrible, dark, mean, negative place.
You
There's a
really
lot
think
of the
so?
world's conditioning us.
You really
Yeah,
think
absolutely. The
so?
world's amazing. For sure. There's so much beautiful things, so many beautiful things happening on the planet right now. It's quite phenomenal. We're seeing more people access to schools and education. I was just in Bali actually with an amazing human being that has built 52 schools in Africa, just by being a simple mum with, a few kids of her own in New Zealand. And she thought, I've got such a blessed life. Why don't I go and do something to make the world a better place in another part of the world? And so we've got all over the world incredible things happening on a daily basis. And I think in general, it's easy for us to think and judge the world to be a really dark and mean and horrible place because
Yeah,
the
because
media is telling us so.
that's
But
what's the media. That's the media is feeding us that we're served really negative, sensational
yeah,
news. So, and
we
we
just
don't
don't have
hear
to buy
about
into that.
these amazing individuals like this lady you just mentioned. We hear about the celebrities, Kim Kardashian, or crazy politicians. So that can make it difficult for us to see the world as a kind place that is helping us see life in a better way. So
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you and I can have this conversation with you in Dubai, me in Sydney, and many people listening to this in times in the future, and they might be in Taiwan driving their car, they might taking the kids to school. They might be, going for a walk on the beach in Bristol, England, if there's a beach. I don't think there's a beach in Bristol. Maybe there is, but like the opportunity for us to share this knowledge and wisdom through technology is just so exciting. And I think that we are seeing rapid progress in the waking up of humanity. There's 100 million people currently using the Calm app, which is phenomenal to think that 10 years ago we didn't have meditation apps. And now we've got 100 million people tuning in to use a meditation device that helps them find some inner peace. And, even me doing my work, I'm seeing, companies. I worked with a petroleum company last week. I worked with one of the largest consulting firms 3 weeks before that. I worked with Amazon and Coca-Cola, teaching them meditation techniques. So this was stuff that wasn't happening 15, 20 years ago. So when you start peeling back the veil of the mainstream media, which only wants to condition us that the world is messed up because that's how they get eyeballs on the media, we start finding that there are amazing stories of people clearing rivers of plastic in Bali, and people creating schools in Kenya, and people, creating, I don't know, helping people get out of sex slavery. So it's some really cool things happening in the world, I think.
That is such a optimistic and uplifting view that you have, Tom, and it's very, very encouraging. And it's something that you highlight in your book Portal, which I really love reading. And I particularly liked the fact that it was a collection of people's stories from all over the world, and with all different kinds of backgrounds. I'm curious to know what really stood out to you amongst all the people that you had interviewed for the book. What was the common thread that you saw in their stories?
There were three common threads that we were looking for. And look, we canvassed the world for these stories, for people that we wanted to make a film about and have the book based on. And the three themes we were looking for was, did they have a crisis in their life? That was the first one. We wanted to showcase the power of meditation against a really difficult background. Not like I was brought up in a really wonderful family and then I decided to start meditating and my life got even better. Like there's not a lot of news in that one. So we wanted it to go against how meditation could showcase against a really challenging situation. So someone that lost their body through locked-in syndrome stroke, someone that broke their back who was a potential Olympian, someone that grew up in the ghetto and was traumatized by the military and the things that they'd seen. There was so many beautiful, rich stories in the Portal film and book. And so the first one was crisis. The second was that they used meditation to heal and recover and up-level from that crisis, because it could have been plant medicine or breath work or yoga or kinesiology, but we wanted to showcase the power of meditation in this one. And then the final thing was we were looking for stories of crisis that kind of overlaid on top of global crisis themes. So looking at what are the crisis themes that humanity is facing. So there's nuclear crisis theme, we've got environmental crisis theme, we've got human displacement crisis theme, so we've got sickness crisis theme. So there's a lot of crises that humanity goes through and also is facing on the horizon in the future. And we kind of wanted to bring in those global themes as well.
And what do you think really helped them get through those crises? Was it just pure meditation, or is there something else like deeper in the human spirit?
I think a bit of two things. I think there's a natural inclination for resilience, and for realizing the human potential. There's a natural inclination for us to obviously. Unrealized human potential is really unpleasant. It's an unpleasant experience. It's what causes a lot of stress, is unrealized potential. And the thing that holds us back from realizing potential predominantly is fear. And I think Tim Ferriss once said that humans would rather be unhappy than go into uncertainty. And that's meaning that fear will trump unhappiness. And so the fear sensation is greater, and uncertainty creates fear, which means that we would rather be unhappy because it's less of an intensity than face fear. So unrealized potential leaves us unhappy but it stops us being fearful because then means we don't have to go and try something that might be we're a bit challenged by, like speaking on stage, or getting that book published, or doing something like starting a business that you thought maybe you're too afraid to do. So firstly, it's that realizing of human potential, and secondly, it was about, again, the big theme in the film and the book was that human construct of the code in our brain that led to the crisis in some aspects in a lot of their lives, to liberate themselves from that human construct and those ways of thinking through the meditation. So meditation really played a big role in liberating them from those patterns and those states that they were restricted by.